Hello, 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 everybody. Welcome to the Pomona Unified High School Championship Steam Showcase. My name is Max. I'm joined by Becky, and we're the ominous voices that the whole room hears. Ooh.
I was going to say, the moment that started going off, I was like, oh, this is way louder than I was anticipating this was going to be, but that's how we like it. A little bit louder than we think it should be, because we're here to cheer for these teams who are ready to play. And we're going to be starting off with some Rocket League action, but there's a ton for you to see with all the vendors that are in the room. Take a peek at them as the evening proceeds, and also be ready for some games that are going to pop up on the big screen over here.
Yeah, I'm jealous of everyone being able to look at all the different vendors. I see the eSIM racing happening in the background. I've been able to sneak out a few times to watch what's happening over there. But, I mean, hey, look, they have their racing. We have Rocket League. They're pretty much the same thing, just as competitive.
I mean, I want a version of the eSIM racing that's Rocket.
First-person Rocket League.
First-person Rocket League.
Tell
That's
you.
what I'm saying. That's going to be the
Billion-dollar
next
idea.
thing. I mean, that's what I'm good for, those billion-dollar ideas. I mean, there's also some Smash Bros. That you can be playing, too. I mean, one of the best games in the world.
I know. I want to cast Smash Bros. Too. But Rocket League, I love Rocket League as well. Smash, awesome for the docket, too. We were talking about it a little bit just before we came live. We were snooping in on the game. The Bayonetta won sudden death on it against Dr. Mario. Very big, very Smash 4 style of play. But this is Smash 5.
I'm less familiar with the different Smash games, but I mean, still delightful to watch. I mean, my favorite character of all time, Pikachu, is in Smash, so
Top tier.
Literally can't complain no matter what. But Greninja is going to be the one to take this.
Also
final
top tier.
match. Also top tier. Also great Pokemon. Big ups to Pokemon.
Well, see, so the main thing to know about Smash Bros, right, is if you see Bayonetta, she's pretty broken no matter what. Even in her own game, she's pretty broken.
Oh, okay. I have not played the game that Bayonetta.
I'm not a Bayonettaologist either.
Okay. Bayonettaologist?
No, I'm more of a Rocket Leagueologist.
Oh, okay, okay. I am. I mean, I do drive a stick shift, so.
Well, okay.
Basically.
Wait, hold on. Are the Rocket League cars stick shift or are they automatic?
I would like to believe they're like race cars, so they're stick shift.
I never thought about a race car, whether or not.
Yeah, race cars are
They
stick shift.
are stick shift.
Yeah.
I've never driven a stick shift car. I'm just a little baby.
If you ever want to learn, I'll teach you.
I'm scared. It'd be like one of the eSIM races for me.
It's not that scary. And you could maybe start you off at eSIM racing. They might have
Honestly, I might need to do that. See, if we had those when I was doing driver's ed, I think I'd be a much better driver.
Oh, yeah. I do think that that's like a good step before actually putting somebody in a real car.
You know what? That would be a really good idea to have like eSIM lineups for like driver's ed classes
There
and
you go.
stuff. You know,
The
get
future is now.
all the wiggles out of the way, all the driver's anxiety.
I mean, it's hard though, because then you're also like maybe not really realizing that it's like you're in a car. I don't know.
You're like disassociating?
Yeah, I don't want people to be like, oh, my first experience driving was in a fake car, so I don't.
Yeah, but we have Mario Kart.
I guess that's fair. You're right.
I feel like anyone under the age of 40, when they first drove a car, was like, "Wow, this is just like Mario Kart," but not nearly as many blue shells. Just a few.
I can't say that I feel the same way, but
What?
maybe I'm over 40. I don't know.
What's your routine?
I know. Been told it a lot recently.
Okay, someday they'll figure out I'm 800.
And clearly, it's just that I see a lot of blue shells on the road. That's the actual problem.
As long as you're not in first place, I guess you. Anyways, we have Rocket League here today. It's going to be our first showcase of the day, and that's after we're done with Rocket League. We do have Valorant that we're heading into. That's also going to be a championship.
Yeah, it is. I mean, we are going to be having 2 separate best of 3s to start us off with Rocket League, and then the winners of those best of 3s are then going to face off against each other for that final championship. And in just a second here, we are going to be putting up a QR code that you're going to be able to scan and then send that link to friends or family or other people who are going to be interested in watching this event. Maybe they weren't able to make it here to this showcase, but this is going to be your way to send that again to some friends and family and be like, hey, you wanted to see our kid play? Here you go. This is going to be the way to do it.
I mean, that's the beauty of esports, right? It's accessible. Anybody can watch it. And for games like Valorant and Rocket League, it's a very easy to access game with a huge skill ceiling. I mean, look, anyone can drive a virtual car, right? But to do what these players are doing and master the craft of coordination, team chemistry, synergy, QR code scanning. All of that requires the mightiest of skills.
I know. This is one of the games that I started playing, and I was like, oh, I'm pretty good at this game. It's really fun. And then I played with my 7-year-old nephew, and I was like, he's way better than me. What the heck?
He's like a pro NASCAR driver already.
I mean, one day he might be, and I'm like, you're on a different level than me. The future is now, once again.
I mean, because, for those in the audience who don't know, Rocket League is car soccer, right? Instead of having however many players you have for soccer, you only have 3. But it looks like we do get started. Downey going to be one of our teams here for the championship. I'm very curious to see how this goes out. Now, again, going back to how Rocket League is broken down, at most you have 3 different players per team. This, of course, is going to be a 3v3. Sometimes you'll have tournaments of 2v2, sometimes a 1v1. But with 3v3s, it requires a lot of coordination. Do you want to prioritize going aggressive and offensive or the defense? Well, for Downey's case, for the first score, they did play pretty offensive.
I mean, I think that's going to be something that you'll pick up on pretty quickly. Much like in actual soccer or football, you're going to see kind of a difference in shift in aggressive gameplay versus passive gameplay, and usually you'll be able to pick up on which team likes to play aggressively versus passively and how they're trying to take control of the scene as a result of that.
Yeah, some great passes coming out early on here from the blue team side. Again, we're looking at the triple goalie coming out from the orange team. The orange team is playing it super safe. They are the ones that have not been able to find much impact yet. But Pomona, it's not too late for them. 4 minutes still left on the clock. Plenty of time to try to wear out possibly the beginning of Gary. But they just need to find the prime positioning to strike that ball into the blue goal.
Yeah, and so far it looks like we're seeing a lot of kind of clumping from that blue side as well. Potentially would want to see a little bit more spread out, but if you're able to get those scores in, it maybe isn't going to matter too much. If you're really able to get somebody to have control of the ball and your opposing team can't take it back, you're ready to get it.
All right, great work from Gary so far. We did have the names a little mixed up, but we've corrected it now. 2 now for Gary. A strong start. A lot of passes early on and a great kickoff. Once again, going in Gary's favor. Pomona, the goal. They need to hold down their defense, but again, just bring that ball to the midfield.
Yeah, and this is going to be another place when we were talking about how Gary was kind of clumping up in that last section before that last goal. This is going to be a place where you're going to want to see Pomona try to take advantage of those times when Gary clumps up. But if Gary's still able to make sure that when they aren't clumped up, that they're getting those scores in, it's going to be really difficult for Pomona to come back into this.
Great air dribbles coming out from Gary's side. The elevated control that they've been able to master thus far against Pomona has been a strong suit. Of course, as we say this, timer is ticking down post-kickoff. Silverfish having some ball control, but once more going back into Gary's favor. A goal opened up. Unfortunately, the liftoff does not connect, and that's a 4th goal for Gary.
And once again, we're seeing a lot of Boutro, this player, come in, take a lot of control, and go for those jumps. That makes it really difficult for Pomona to steal the ball away.
Yeah, great passing. Gary focusing on the primary now. Getting that control to Boutro's hands has worked phenomenally.
Oh, a narrow miss on that jump there.
Oh, that was close. Hitting the backboard. Does allow a reset. Lizzie has the ball in control, and there's not a lot of goalie control coming from Gary's side. That could have been the opportunity to go for the score. Pomona, they have to get themselves in a position again to have a clean shot.
Ooh, a little bit of a demo there, and that is going to force a reset of those 2 cars onto the field, and it allows for a little bit of a control reset for the ball here. And now we see Silverfish in command of the ball at post-demo, able to score the first one for Pomona.
Yeah, like you mentioned, that demo, very important. You remove one player of Gary off the server for just a few seconds. It allows enough time to diminish that offensive control that Gary's been using so well, and finally strike and get that first goal. But again, score difference could be huge. A good kickoff for the start from Pomona, but Gary, once again, they capitalize. No! A big save comes from Pomona. Huge And now the ball goes back into the midfield. Another setup possible. Boutro, the star of the show for game number 1, may have the opportunity to send another. But Gary's a unified unit does it again.
Yeah, very good setup coming in from Boutro there, and then Iker there and ready to sink that final hit there as well. Despite 3 defensive players from Pomona, they're not able to stop the onslaught coming in from Gary. And I think that this is starting to be one of those games at 5-1 where Pomona is maybe just trying to have some communication time, trying to dissect how Gary is playing the game and figure out where in the rest of the best of 3 they're actually going to want to end up being and how they're going to want to play those next 2 games.
Right. Remind too, this is not the only game Gary and Pomona are facing off against each other on. This is a best of 3. So the timer again may be ticking down. That is not the only timer we'll be seeing in this best of 3. Lizzie! Great defense! Exactly what Pomona needs. They have brought the ball nearly back to the midfield once more. I don't see Boutro available. He goes for the strike just from off screen. The pressure's out, and once more a 6th score for Gary.
And that's a great little 1-2 punch that we're seeing from those same 2 players on Gary's side. The setup coming in from one side, another player coming in from the other, and it's like if it doesn't sink the first time with Boutro, then Iker's going to be the one to make sure that it's all set up. And we've got a little bit of defensive action from that final player over towards the midfield as well.
That's right, I'm loving the coordination coming out from Gary. They have a set plan in mind of how to delegate the ball into the goal. Pomona, again, they've been forced into this ultra defensive position, which, to their credit, has worked pretty well in saving a lot of these goals. But, like you mentioned, the adjustment of having Boutro and the other Gary players striking almost in unison, though, just one after another, does allow Iker to usually confirm those goals.
We're seeing this dynamic duo once again heading towards the end of the map that would spell disaster for Pomona, but Luton's able to take control of that, trying to run down the field with it, but it's a fight back and forth between those 2 players. And I would be a little bit frightened of a potential demo that would reset both of those players here soon, but thankfully they do a little bit of a spread out to make sure that that doesn't happen.
I mean, Gary's been doing a pretty good job capitalizing on the demo. It's not that we haven't seen anything from Pomona just yet. The speed boosts don't seem to be nearly as available as they had been before. Pomona, if there is a way to get that into game number 1, it needs to be capitalizing off those demos like you mentioned, Becky. Boutro needs the ball for just a few seconds in order to have some control of the ball.
Yeah, this is a hard place for Pomona, though. Gary also is just in a complete shift from their previous aggression, where when there's only 10 seconds left and you're 5 points ahead, the name of the game is defense, just keeping the ball away from the enemy team. It doesn't even matter where it goes. You just have to make sure that it is out of your opponent's hand, and that is how Gary is going to sink in game number 1.
Great first game coming out from Gary's side. I really like the overall big picture control that the team employed. We talked about the duality between Iker, and we talked about his duo-ship, of course, with Boutro as well. You know, if one couldn't get the ball in on that first try, the other teammate would follow up and get that strike in. And even with a fully defensive Pomona, it was still a really effective strategy.
Absolutely. And so going into this next game, I do think that those first few minutes are going to be really decisive. I think that we got to see that Gary was just like not afraid and just kind of went in with a very aggressive strategy. And now hopefully Pomona is a little bit ready for that. They're not going to be kind of playing back as far as they were, where it was really detrimental for them to get doubled up on by all of those Gary players.
Yeah, I completely agree, and I think this is a good leeway into us having all 3 games for a best of 3. If we could see Pomona have that early defense, like you mentioned, then transition it over to having that full offensive control, again, maybe by some demos, that would be a great way to put Gary now back on the back foot, and for them to be the ones that have to be super defensive, and they might not have as much map control.
Absolutely. I think a lot of the name of the game going into this next match is also going to be airtime. We got to see a lot more airtime coming in from Gary's side, and I think that that was how they did such a great job of evading Pomona and making sure that they were able to basically, and quite literally, get over Pomona.
That's true. Well, luckily we don't have much time to wait until we get into game number 2. It seems like things are just about ready to get started. Again, like Becky said, it all starts on this first kickoff. Very important tempo setting. You can start from both sides. looking like it goes mostly in Pomona's favor early on. Again, capitalization will be the name of the game. Iker and Vutro, a duo made in heaven, should work effectively in the beginning. Lizzie, though, nearly finding the perfect strike to get that first goal 15 seconds in, Becky, but it wasn't to be.
I was going to say, it might be really seeming to people watching like, why aren't you passing the ball? Well, it's a lot more difficult than that. It's really difficult, one, to figure out where you're going to be hitting the ball, but then also trying to make sure that you're hitting it towards a teammate. You got to play a lot of hours in this game before you finally are able to lock that a level of gameplay in. But we are starting to see it between some of these Gary players, especially in match number 1, and Pomona is doing a better job of it so far at the beginning of this match.
And hey, that's what makes Rocket League such a studious game too, right? You really need to master geometry in order to be able to pass the ball between yourself and your teammates. You know, I try to take out my protractor when I play this game. It doesn't work. I can't figure out why. But all the Gary and Pomona students, they've got it down locked.
They sure do. And we're seeing My Name Jeb and Lizzle doing a really good job of getting the ball over towards Gary's side of the board. But it is struggling to get that final sink in. And I feel like we really need to see what Gary was doing at the start of last match as well, where they do have somebody going for that first sink and then somebody immediately ready for that rebound. Just little positioning fixes that would really allow Pomona to come into this game strong.
I mean, speaking of Pomona too, props to them. They've made a lot of small adjustments from game 1 to game 2 where we have not seen a goal against them yet. Remember, the very first goal of game 1 was super quick in Gary's
seconds
favor.
Into the match, yeah.
Seconds, literally seconds in. And only now...
Great save coming in from Pomona
no!
there. Very nicely done.
I thought for sure that could have been our first goal, but it looks like Vutro may have nearly had it twice now. So close to securing the first score, but it wasn't enough. Really speaks volumes about the defensive capabilities of Pomona.
Yeah, Silverfish doing a great job saving both of those potential goals that would have come in from Gary. And now the pressure is back on. Is Gary going to be able to make this ball sink into that goal? Or have they left their side of the field completely open? Thankfully, Relic is there and able to save the ball from going into Pomona's favor.
Relic? Oh, was in a good position. Relic's been normally the dedicated defender for Gary's side. Iker and Vutro have taken that star-studded role of striking the ball into Pomona's court. Hasn't been enough just yet, but as
just
I
as you say that.
making me eat my words. Relic, again, it is a trident of offensive potential from Gary's side. And Pomona, they put up a great fight so far for game 2, but they can't let it begin to slip here.
Yeah, but unlike at the 2-minute mark in the first match, Pomona is still very much in this. I mean, they were in it at the 2-minute mark before, but it was feeling a lot more rough. This feels like it's doable. Even if we get to a 1-1 score, we go into sudden death. So Pomona really only needs to make sure that they play defensive enough to not get it up to 2 and just find themselves 1 goal somewhere in this newfound teamwork that we found in game number 2.
Oh, Relic once more really being the star of game number 2. Iker was trying to reposition the ball for the longest time. Relic saw the opportunity and took it.
Absolutely. 2 in a row now for Gary. 2 minutes, just shy of that, still on the timer. Pomona still with a chance, but it is starting to get more and more difficult. Once again, 2 goals would put us into sudden death, where we'll be first to the first goal, takes the game. But Gary's trying to make that near impossible by getting as many more goals as possible. But thankfully, once again, the saving grace for Pomona is Silverfish.
Yep, Silverfish, a great save. Lizzie's been the one to try to go for the offensive strikes. The ball, though, dancing around, has yet to find a dedicated home. Relic, though, the leader of game 2, guiding it over towards Pomona's side. Pomona, though, they kick the ball back. Iker tries to stop the momentum, but it's not enough. Relic, maybe in a good position to find an open net. Could that be an open goal? The answer was nearly a yes. Stopped just in time by Pomona.
Yeah, and it's going to be Lizzle trying to take command of that ball once again. A good defensive shot going back and forth, but unfortunately for Pomona, someone from Gary is there every single time that they're able to try and push that ball out of their space. And the airtime coming in from Gary's side is just so difficult for Pomona to fight against.
Just trying to find that setup. so patient doing so. 38 seconds left on the clock. Time now running out for Pomona to stay in this best of 3. A demo. I think the first of game number 2. Out now. Boutro is gone. This is Pomona's time to strike, but they have so little time to do it.
Not fully into that goal. A great save once again from the remaining players of Pomona post-demo, but 15 seconds on the clock. The saving may not be enough for the side of Pomona as that 10 seconds, the final time, tick down. A demo that almost surely is going to spell an end for Pomona. As Gary, 1 second left, but that 1 second holds until the ball hits the ground. 2-0 for Gary, who will be your first team to go into the grand finals.
I really like the role definition from Gary's side. Each player had their own play. They all had their own strategies. They formed up together like a gigantic symbiotic unit and knew exactly how they wanted to achieve their goals against Pomona and succeeded very well.
Yeah, and I will give it to Pomona as well. Market improvements that we got to see from game number 1 to game number 2. And it's got to be really hard to play up here on a stage.
Oh, yeah.
You get to hear us in the background shouting over what you're doing. You feel like a lot is on the line. It's a lot to get to the point where you're competing in a match like this. I mean, similar to how you get the jitters before a sports match, you're kind of ending up in the same place here. Or casting. So you just gotta, you know, be like, this was a great first match. There were great improvements to be had. Let's rewatch the VODs later and slowly get more and more used to playing on the big stage.
Look, I don't even have streaming services anymore. All I do is watch gaming VODs now, and I learn so much from these players.
I do my best to learn from them too, but I haven't canceled all my streaming services. I still gotta watch my Netflix every once in a while.
Nah, this is my Netflix.
I mean, okay, to each their own. We will be having the next match be a Pomona team versus a Ganesha team to go on to the stage. What are you hoping to see from these teams going into the next one?
Well, we haven't seen Ganesha yet, but what we learned from Pomona is that they like to prioritize their defense, and I really like that strategy. The issue, though, is that a lot of the times in the mid-round, before the goal would happen, we would see Gary lead the players of Pomona out into the midfield, and they would have this squabble inside of mid to start getting ball control. Iker or Boutro would take it back. They would swerve the ball away into the goal of Pomona. And really, it was Silverfish that was holding the line in that defensive spot, which is great. But if you're one car going up against 3 cars defensively, it's a little tough.
The math, it maths.
Yes. I learned that at school.
I certainly did too. As well, how to play soccer. I did play 3 years of soccer.
Really? Oh, you should be coaching.
I don't think it, I mean, some parts translate. Some parts certainly. However, you mentioned there are far more players on a normal soccer team than there are in a Rocket League game.
No,
so the roles pretty vastly different.
Yeah, but it's still car soccer.
It is still car soccer, which I think is also one of the beautiful parts of watching this game. Even if you're never played Rocket League before, it's pretty simple to follow because it is a pretty simple game format to something that we watch a lot. It's very simple to a lot of other normal sports that we are used to seeing.
Well, no, hold on. You can't just say you were playing soccer in school and not tell us what role you were.
I mostly played midfield, and then I decided that I hated running, and in my final year I was playing goalie.
Oh.
The least running position.
Okay.
I was not very good at goalie. There's a reason I quit after that year.
That's fair. You know what's much harder to quit, though? Rocket League.
I mean, yeah, you said it. Anyone can play it.
Yeah.
I quit soccer and went to rock climbing.
Hey, you don't have to wear cleats if you play Rocket League.
That's true.
Wear them on your own time. Ruin the carpet.
I was going to say, what if you just, like, get into, like, a soccer uniform to play Rocket League just because it, like, helps you get in the mindset?
It's like method acting.
Yeah, exactly.
Huh. Interesting. How do you method act being a shoutcaster? You just put on a headset.
I was going to say, it's got to be
this.
Void. My, like, blank stare as I had no idea how to answer that question. I do think it would have to be just, like, the headset really does it. Or, like, the microphone in front of my face.
No, we just talk into a mirror and we go Rocket League, Rocket League, Rocket League over and over again, hoping the cards will summon themselves.
You just gave away all your secrets. I'm keeping
mine
close to my chest.
I'm feeling generous today. I got to tell everyone. We all got to become shoutcasters today.
I mean, you're also an actor. Is there another kind of acting method acting that you do?
I've heard of acting before, but we did get some really interesting news. So if Ganesha wins this matchup, we will actually have a rematch of the Grand Finals in Grand Finals from last year.
Whoa.
The
All
lore
right.
keeps getting deeper.
The lore keeps getting deeper. I mean, we are on our second year of this championship
flies.
series. Time does fly, but also it's cool to see this continue into another year. Hoping to see it continue into many more years because it is so cool to see the evolution of esports and esports at a level of this age group. Because I remember like being in high school and middle school, and I would have died if I could have been even in a club that was really about gaming. Like the closest thing was like a Dungeons and Dragons group, which I was in.
Nice.
But I would have loved if there was like a video gaming club or like an actual like sports chance. Everything that was about esports when I was in high school 10 some plus years ago was out of school. It was the lands in people's garages that I would go to, and
good old Halo lands.
Good old Halo lands. I was mostly playing Warcraft, but
Yeah, same thing. Tomato, tomato.
Tomato, tomato. And so it's just like really cool to see young people get a chance to do something that I would have loved to have been able to do when I was their age, and see that they're getting things that are better than what I had when I was in their position.
That's the job of us adults, to make
Yeah.
things easier for the kids. You know what's interesting? Back at my own university, I'm gonna out myself as an East Coaster, but you know, at my university, we would have a pretty dedicated Smash Bros. Club, and we would actually have professional players, like top 10 in the world,
Wow.
come by to our university just to hang out and play with people.
At the University of Rhode Island?
The University of Rhode Island.
Is that a small school?
I mean, it's about as big as the state.
That's why I asked.
It's about school sized.
Okay, fair enough. But you still getting top 10 players to come and
we
hang out with you, play some games?
We had Light. I remember he was like a top 10 player for a very long
Wow.
time in Melee and Ultimate. Ultimate's being played over there right now. And he would come by in our weekly tournaments and absolutely destroy all of us.
Hey, but you lose a lot from losing.
That's true.
You
gain
lose a lot. You
gain
learn a lot.
Gain
Gain
a
a
lot.
lot. That's
Yes.
the phrase. I got there.
I mean, you can maybe lose a little
You lose a
dignity losing, to a professional player.
Do you really lose a lot of dignity if
Okay,
you
maybe
lose to
not
like one of the
dignity.
best players in the world? Like, oh
gain
darn, I'm not
dignity.
on their level. Like, you also got to watch exactly
how
how
you
they
gain
beat you and figure
determination.
out. There you go.
I lost to the pro player, but I will beat them someday. Now, we are remaking the lobbies right now, so I'm down to keep vamping.
Yeah, well, let's keep going.
We're vampologists here. But yeah, we would lose to pro players all the time. Rocket League, a somewhat different story. The way it works online is a little bit different now. In the last few years, when everyone had to be online, there's actually a lot of practice groups, and we call them scrims, where you can play and practice professional teams versus professional teams without having to get up and go anywhere. You have your own setup at home.
And that's, again, we keep talking about esports being kind of the name of the game, accessibility, and that's exactly it. You don't have to leave your house. You don't have to go anywhere. And when it is difficult to travel or difficult for people to go outside because of a pandemic, you still have a chance to interact with people. You still are able to hold on to friendships. We're getting to see a surgence of that with social media, but now we're getting to do it. What?
I love Friends.
Oh, okay. I was like, we're friends?
I would hope so.
I would hope so too.
I thought
We
we
are
were.
friends. I'm playing. He's the actor, but I also am. Where was I? You lost me now.
I'm so sorry. Hopefully we can be found someday.
We're talking about accessibility
Yes.
in games. Being able to still hang out with people and hang out with them in a way that is more than just like social media where you're just talking back and forth. You're getting to, in a similar way to, again, going back to my Dungeons & Dragons board gaming background as well, you're getting to hang out with people in a game setting. You're getting to bond over something at the same time. And also basically be doing a big puzzle at the same time, because that's what a lot of video games are at their core, even the most basic ones. They're using a lot of your brain. They're putting a lot of effort into solving a problem. And in games like Rocket League and Valorant, solving a problem as a team.
That's true. Believe me, if there's anything I learned from a lot of my games and competitive games, it's very hard to operate as a team sometimes with people you don't know. But the psychology aspect, you're completely right. One big factor when it comes to competitive games like this is that you can be as mechanically gifted as you want. You can know every little strategy of a game. But if you know the psychology of it and you have the good mental fortitude to be able to get past the rough games and get to the really good ones, you can unlock those enemy teams any days.
I mean, there's also a lot to be said from these teams that are used to playing with each other as well. A lot of the people who are pro players will do a mixture of solo gameplay as well as team gameplay. And a lot of these games change a lot depending on whether you're playing solo or with a team.
They do. Painfully, yes. Yes,
Painfully,
but let me tell you, this is the best case scenario for a lot of these players. You have 3 people who all know each other. They can bounce off each other. Chemistry, quite literally in Rocket League, bounce off of each other well. And, yeah, a lot of us aren't always that lucky.
I was going to say, because there's a lot of people who are some of the most, again, gifted players, but have really bad mental. Mental is
They
not
yell
that
at
crazy.
each other.
People know.
These guys don't yell at each
mental
other, though.
We don't know that. I haven't heard any. We can pretend. All right, quick kickoff here as we're going into this one. Let's see if we can test the mental of these players. As a great vertical shot to come in from Aspired to start this off. That's a very difficult shot to go and fight against.
Yeah, I believe that was a flip reset.
Ooh,
Nice.
little finisher there.
Great little flip reset early on from Aspire to secure the first goal against Pomona. Pomona, great to win kickoff this next goal. It was a bit of a slow start in game 1 up against Gary. Same exact early goal had occurred. Demo is out now against Pomona. High Voltage unfortunately falls for just a few seconds. Again, Pomona hot off the trails of the first series. They know exactly what their game plan should be going into this. They had that time to warm up.
Yeah, and warm-up is certainly important. A lot of these players were in here getting set up at the start, but it's a little hard. Once again, the moment you come onto that stage and the lights turn on, all of a sudden, any bit of warm-up you did might start to go away real quick, and we see that as Aspired. Yeah, striking fear into the enemy's eyes with that great finisher, Ganesha. I keep trying to say Gary. Both teams, G starts.
GA.
Yeah, exactly. Tripping my little brain up. Aspired, not here to mess around.
Yeah,
Keeps doing these tricky little shots.
I mean, Aspired is really using the backboard super well for minor kick resets into the goal striking, and I'm really liking his play. I want to focus on Pomona this time around and see exactly what the goalie setup looks like here, because right now 2 players early on, it's going to be an offensive 2 for Pomona, but the issue now is that Ganesha, they'll send 2 players very aggressively off of losing kickoff, sending the ball all the way to Pomona, and there's only 1 goal.
Ooh. Wow. Chat, am I muted?
Chat, am I muted?
Chat, am I muted? I don't think we're muted. I can hear us in the background. I know we're not muted.
Chat, flip that.
That's a great finisher, too, with the shark.
That's cool. That's cool.
I'm just admiring the cosmetics in the game.
Yeah, you don't get that normal soccer. No sharks on the field.
If only. That would be so fun. Ganesha, though, 4 minutes remaining and 4 goals on their side. Certainly a lot of time for Pomona to still come back into this match, but they're not messing around, and they're not bringing anything but aggression.
Aspired is going for that setup once more. We've seen this work very well before. This time Pomona, a much more offensive fight post defense of the goalie. Of course, though, unfortunately, the goal is open. Pomona once more down, but this is how game number 1 went as well. Game number 2 against Gary did go much closer to the wire, so I'm expecting if we see major adjustments. I mean, 3.5 minutes left on the clock. There's still plenty of time for Pomona, but I really want to see less offense from Pomona, more defense in the first 15 or so seconds of the goal.
In Pomona's defense, Aspired is doing a really great job of changing up the game every single time. Every single directional goal so far has been pretty different, and that's got to be really difficult to try and dissect and figure out exactly what you should be doing when your opponent is completely changing up their play style every single time.
And part of it too, Aspired is collecting all these speed boosts, which may not seem like the biggest deal in the world, but it prevents Pomona from demoing him. So when you get that 100 speed boost and you just ram into the enemy team's car, you blow them up for a few seconds. If you remove Aspired from the equation, Pomona's immediately going to open up.
and that's something I would love to see them try to do. But with 2 minutes and 45 seconds left on the clock, they've also got to try and figure out how they're going to be getting some goals onto the board here as that clock is ticking down. And maybe even if they're not going to be getting goals, just starting to see if they can, again, as you mentioned, figure out how to take out some of these extremely aggressive Ganesha players.
Yeah, Ganesha was taking a lot of advantages of demos fairly early on into this first game. But again, an open goal, Pomona, they're focusing in what we call in the esports industry tunnel visioning on the ball quite a bit. That's okay, though. Still 2 minutes left on the clock. And Becky, I have a question for you.
What's up?
One of the players on Pomona, oh, should have said it right there, Batman is better.
Oh, better than who?
Or are they better at Rocket League? I don't know.
Oh.
Do you think Batman's a good Rocket League player?
Batman's a gamer for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, but he can pay for professional coaching.
Yeah, exactly. I do think that Batman is a gamer.
Wait, is that Batman?
That might be Batman. Those eyes, those are Batman's eyes.
Oh, yeah.
Okay,
Sorry.
Batman is a gamer, but he definitely pays for a professional gaming coach because Robin is better than him.
Yep, I can see that.
This is my hot take.
Well, it's because he has like he's aerobic, right? You know, he does all the gymnastics. His
Yeah.
brain is extra elastic.
I don't know if that's how that works. Are you so like Mr. Fantastic is elastic?
I mean, that's far.
Chat, am I muted?
Chat, are we
It's
muted
not.
now?
Chat, are we muted? We're muted. We're talking about Batman, but chat is like chat. You know, I'm
That's not
chat
Batman.
for
That's
short. Certainly.
Oh,
not.
DC has their own chart. What is his name?
I only know of Jeff the Shark.
Oh no, they have their own shark. It's a big shark war.
Oh.
Did you survive the shark war? No.
A tangent I cannot go on, I'm afraid.
Oh, it's okay. I understand. Full rocket therapy. That being said, though, Ganesha 8-0 now. A minute 43 left on the clock. A great job so far. Comms have been very successful, and just an onslaught of pressure non-stop against Pomona. Aspired and Muted once more, a dynamic duo capable of, again, bringing Ganesha potentially closer to a rematch in the grand finals from last year.
And I mean, you mentioned it already, but Aspired is picking up a lot of those boosts, and as a result of getting those boosts, being able to pick up that much speed, is also being able to pick up a lot of air time, and that's how Aspired is making so many of these goals. We've got to see that 9th goal, and it matched that first goal that we saw. That's really just, again, trying to function on a completely different axis than Pomona is playing.
Because Aspire survived the shark war.
I still don't know what this means, but that's okay.
That's good. I'm glad you blocked it out of your memory.
Chat, am I muted? Also, I think at this point, chat, am I muted? That's a long name to say every single time. Chat for short. It's just trying to see if we can pick up more kills than Aspired has.
Oh, Aspired had such a great airtime in the air, vertical spike down. Actually, you know what's very interesting? Of all the years we've been doing this, I think the most dominant plays we have seen consistently through these Rocket League championships have always been the air forward downward spikes.
Yeah, because they're the hardest to play against.
And there's not a lot of counters to it, really, other than a well-timed jump.
Yeah, once again, the geometry, the physics, the amount of things you have to take into consideration.
Like that.
Yep.
Beautiful play from Aspired.
And yeah, see, that's so hard because if you're trying to counteract that, you kind of have to go at it from the side. You can't come at it from the back of the goal because you're not going to be able to get that height that is necessary to kind of push it back into the middle of the field. So you're having to hit it to the side. And then Aspired is presumably playing it in a way that says, if you do hit it to the side, I'm going to be able to have one of my teammates go ahead and pick it up.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that too, because chat's usually following from the left or right side for a quote just after that spike comes down in case it misses.
All right, 11 points here for Ganesha. The first match almost certainly locked down, but this could end up being very similar to what we saw from the last game as
That's right.
well. Pomona did a great job of playing a much more defensive game, especially at the start of the second match that we saw in the previous best of 3. So I'd be interested in seeing, once again, once these final 15 seconds come through, where the game is going to end up starting for match number 2.
Yeah, great strategic moment that a lot of teams will take advantage of in a best of 3 or sometimes even a best of 5 or 7. And really any game is that, okay, look, 1 second left on the clock, down 11 points. Statistically unlikely we're going to win game number 1. We're going to use this time to just talk as a team and figure out, okay, what is our strategy for game 2? How do we bring this to a game 3? How do we win it after losing game 1?
Absolutely. And I think there is a lot to be said of, you don't see this a lot in other games, but I come from Magic the Gathering, and I think a lot of other card games especially. If you're so far behind in a game, but you still have 2 more games that you can finish, you're just like, I'm scooping them up. I'm saving my own mental. I'm done trying. So while it looks like 11-0 is like a horrible slog, you're just like, maybe at some point I just threw my hands up and I said, I'm just trying to save my mental. I'm just trying to keep calm, and I'm not going to give over any of my secrets in this game. So I'm just going to hold on, just let it play out, keep talking with my team, save the mental for game number 2.
And that's actually a lot more common than you realize in a lot of different games. Sometimes in games we have different maps that have different environments or geometry. It might be like a ban or pick system, right?
Yeah.
Well, we'll get rid of these maps, but we want this one, and then my enemy team wants this one. We're not very good at that one. So we know we can win that first game. Probably not going to win that second game. But hey, that means we're guaranteed for a third game. Rocket League's no different.
You could possibly also be talking about Valorant. There's no way that these games have that much crossover. The maps aren't different in Rocket League. I mean, they have visual differences.
That's right, but the psychology comes through.
There
It's
you
like,
go.
okay, well, you know what? Now we know how Ganesha plays. In fact, Pomona, this might be their big brain strat. They know how both teams play at their best. Pomona have all the secrets in their pockets. They can be like, okay, look, we know we may not have won the first series. We can bring it back this game and go flawlessly for the rest of the day.
Yep, and this time around, quick first shot in from Aspired. We got to see Dan start that off, not make that first sinking shot, but then, you know, as we saw in game number 1, team gameplay was what got that first goal for Ganesha. And now Pomona, once again, lots of time still left in this match. Still time for them to come in with their new strategies and a little bit better control of the ball to start this match off here.
It's a good start early on now. Inspired, most certainly the dominant king of the showcase in this series. Dan the man has been the dedicated goalie, great for setting up Aspire to get those goals in as well. Even if the stats don't necessarily reflect it, Dan has been an integral part of Ganesha's success. Aspire, a big tango this time. We saw this exactly happening in game 2, but Pomona versus Gary. They were able to contest this a lot more offensively than they did in game number 1.
Ooh, a great defensive start for Pomona, but unfortunately, Aspired. Right place, right time, ready for the moment that Pomona loses track of that control and is just ready to sink it. I mean, Pomona, once again, doing a great job slowing things down, but Aspired just as ready, passing those geometry courses, passing those physics courses, straight A's.
Yeah. Aspire's been so good about taking advantage of the vertical airtime that Rocket League allows you. Probably with the core difference between this game and soccer. Other than
You're not getting a ton of airtime in soccer?
I tried a few times. I can't jump. I can't jump.
It's all right. I can't. All right, we're getting up to that 100 level for chat. Am I muted? Those boosts, once again, being picked up a lot by the team in Ganesha. And just trying to position themselves in a way to pass that ball back and forth and get that goal sunk one more time, as Pomona is also trying to hold on as much as possible.
Let's see Pomona. What can we do to bring this back? Oh! Inspired once more. The tracking of the ball has been fantastic.
Very much so. And once again, the players who are able to take as much control of the ball in the air are the ones who are showing that they can really be able to sink as many of those goals as possible. And I'm aspiring to be a little bit like them when I get home and play this game.
Yeah, I know. I wish I was nearly as good at Rocket League as any of the players on the field here, but every time I play, I'm like, huh? What am I doing? Inspired again, the spike comes through. 4-0 now for Ganesha.
Pomona, we're seeing quite a bit of defensive energy, but once again, if you're just not moving around the map, you're not picking up a lot of those boosts. You're not able to get in the air and even deny some of the shots that Aspired is going for.
Great kickoff from Aspired early on, sending it to the right side of the field. Chat, am I muted? Capitalizing off the top, full ball control. A great defensive push though from Pomona does lead the ball back into the midfield. Aspired sends it back against Pomona's side. It's up to the capitalization of muted, but he unfortunately misses. Pomona almost set up the ball.
Great save, number one, but unfortunately the collision comes through. And High Voltage is not able to be the only defensive piece necessary to chop this little back and forth from those two Ganesha players. Pomona trying to hold on in this match with 2.5 minutes left.
2.5 minutes left now, once more. Ganesha will kick off. That means better just reset the ball quite a bit. However, Dan the Man again has been so good about setting up for the rest of his teammates to get those immaculate scores in. A great defensive play from High Voltage sends the ball back. Stalls like this are so impactful. And then it's better maybe in a position now to stop it, but unfortunately, no, the goalies are out. High Voltage, this could be an empty goal. Outside of chat, am I muted? It's an empty goal against Ganesha.
Okay, Batman is better. Trying to go for a little bit of a dribble there. Manages to pull it a little bit over towards Ganesha's side, but unfortunately not for long before Aspired. Once again, gains control of the ball here, trying to set it up for a teammate, but Dan the Man a little slow to get there, so it looks like Pomona will be able to take control of the ball once again, but it's really just a struggle for Pomona to get that ball past the halfway point.
Yeah, like the strategy put in place with Pomona. I would love to see more demos coming out against Ganesha's side to kind of offset their positioning. Haha! Askin, you shall receive High Voltage. Demoing out Dan the Man, forcing Ganesha to reset and head back towards the midfield. Luckily though, the respawn comes back just in time. Dan is back. The opportunity here, High Voltage leads the charge. Unfortunately, it's blocked away. Ball heading back to the Pomona court. If there's a moment, it has to be now for Pomona to get their point on the board.
I mean, as you mentioned, that demolition that we just saw was instrumental in saving Pomona from another goal coming through. Had that not happened, it would have been a sure seat for Ganesha. And now it's just 33 seconds of Pomona trying to see if they can get some lucky runners here.
About a goal every 4 seconds. So the net math class, it's the most complex math I can do.
Aspired.
Ganesha, they just play defensive.
I was going to say, and it's just like Aspired is playing like a shark in the water. Just the fin and terror in the eyes of Pomona here, who's just trying to make it through as these final 30 seconds tick through. Ball in the air, that second hold until it hits the green here. Aspired keeps it up, but it is going to be a 5-0, and Ganesha taking it in. I will give it to Pomona. Once again, both of those second games went much better, and as you could tell from the names, that is a separate team. We had an entire school not be able to make it, and so Pomona was like, hey, we can put together 2 teams and make it so that we can each at least still have a tournament-style game for the lovely people coming today to watch.
I mean, hey, it's a joy for us. We love casting games. It's always fun to see the different strategies, both on an individual and a team-wide level for teams to bring out. Really enjoyed how Ganesha played out their strategies. I think Aspired, with his very high mastery of aerial play into the spikes down, is going to be a major issue for Gary in the grand finals.
Absolutely, but it is something that we did get to see from Gary as well, a lot of that aerial gameplay. So I think we're really in for a treat as we go into the grand finals here. That is a rematch.
That's right. I think we even saw it last year too, where it was a lot of offensive pressure from both teams up against, I don't want to say lackluster defense. That's not true. It's just less defense priority. I think the defense is very strong and very malleable when it needs to be called by the teammates, but if you had to choose between the two, I think both teams really like to push the ball into the goal.
Absolutely. Well, we are going to go to a quick little break before we get into the grand finals, get our players nice and situated, but don't go anywhere. It will be a quick break, and then we'll be figuring out who is taking home the Rocket League trophy between Gary and Ganesha.
Hello, 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 everybody. Welcome back to the Pomona Unified Championship High School event. My name is Max, and I'm joined by Becky. And guess what? We have a grand championship! Woo!
I mean, we're excited. We know that you are all excited as well. We do have a rematch this year between Gary and Ganesha. Will Gary be able to take it from Ganesha and have their name engraved as this year's winner on that lovely trophy that Alan Sack pointed out? We'll see.
Because I believe it was Ganesha that had a pretty good run last year. And honestly, from what we've seen today, both teams look like they're at the most stellar level they've ever been. But there was one player on Ganesha I saw that was running the entire gambit in their series.
Absolutely, but everything can change from game to game. I mean, you can start to feel those jitters at any moment.
That's true. That's true. Well, the most interesting thing, too, like on an analytical level, is that each of these two teams still, even from last year, played a very, very similar style. Very, very aggressive. Got to get the ball into the goal, and there's our amazing players. And guess what? Their goal? Ball into the goal. The defense is what I'm worried about for both these teams going into this. So you and I, we're going to have to keep a lookout and seeing who's going to really take that anchor position on each side.
Absolutely, and we were saying that that was going to be the name of the game on the second matches for both of those Pomona teams as well. I will be interested, as you mentioned, to see how that defensive gameplay is going to go. But from what we saw in those first matches, we only really got to see a lot of defensive gameplay from Gary. So my brain is automatically leaning in that direction.
Oh.
But maybe we just won't. We just didn't have a chance to see Ganesha's defensive gameplay. Maybe that'll change in this game.
Very true, and we just got to see an amazing shot of the trophy and the lollipops. I feel like we don't get to talk about the lollipops enough.
And they're really the star of the show.
Oh, man, I could go for some sugar right now. I love lollipops.
Don't we all? All right, our players are starting their engines and getting ready to go onto that pitch and find out who is going to be engraving their name in that trophy. Any final thoughts, Keg?
Well, you know, very diplomatically, everyone on the microphone has not said which team they were rooting for. Who are you rooting for, Becky?
Ooh, good question. I'm rooting for Batman is Better. He's not playing in this game anymore, but I did love that name. Kickoff.
I tried!
Come through. You sure did, and you're not going to get me to budge. And it's a quick back and forth from both of these teams so far. Chat, am I muted? Coming through here for Ganesha and trying to keep that pressure on.
Aspired was so good about converting goals at the end of the last series, and the ball was dancing with destiny. First few seconds into the grand finals, nearly enough to convert the first goal. Relic was the anchor back over on Gary's side. He really did stand up and take away a few shots. He got a lot of goals in game number 2 against Pomona last time around, but really it was the duality between Vutro and Iker that stole the show.
Absolutely true, and we're getting to see Relic with a lot of saves this time around, as well as Aspirant. Last time we didn't really see Aspirant play a defensive game. We really just got to see full aggression from that player, so it's great to see the change this time around in a 0-0 match as we're through the first minute of the match.
You do bring up a really good point, Becky, that we did get to see a lot more fluidity between offensive and defensive capabilities with Gary, but not so much from Ganesha in their last best of 3. But this is a very strong first start for Gary's side.
Absolutely. Great sync to come through from a Relic to start things off. And it all came down to a demolition that happened between the 2 star players that we were saying so much about in both of those matches. And hey, if the 2 star players are demoed, the weight's on somebody's shoulders, and Relic was able to push that boulder that is this ball up the mountain.
Both teams have capitalized on demos quite a bit to initiate their goal setting so far this tournament. A very, very good utilization of the mechanics of this game. Aspire, again though, the aerial mastermind of the server has been so good about setting things up, but Vutro has been taking in between. Some grounded strikes, some aerial strikes, but all the while though, Aspire has been the one to find these perfect open goals to even it up.
You see that icon on the side too, that sniper icon, because look at the length of this shot from fully on the other side of the map, complete right into that goal to make the score 1-1. And that's the kind of gameplay that we were praising from Aspirant in that match that we watched before.
Ganesha won the kickoff. Dan the man sending the ball into the back. It's an attempt though to recover the ball. Relic though unfortunately does not get the flip reset into the air. It's up to Aspire to capitalize. Unfortunately, chat, am I muted? Am I?
No, you are
not
that's good.
Muted.
We certainly hear you, but Boutro is trying to not hear you. Focus in on this match and make sure that the control stays in the hands of Gary. But Aspired has something completely different to say and is trying to see if they can line up that long-range goal. But Boutro trying to show off. We called them the star players, and those are two different half-side goals. Those are so difficult to land and show that you really need to put value on somebody being a fully defensive player.
Look, last year Ganesha was able to win the tournament by having a full offensive gameplay. This year Gary came prepared. They have solidified both sides and really just a big dynamic about what to accomplish with the ball at any moment of a round. Ganesha, their offense is looking great, but I really want to see their defense step up.
Ooh, a shot that could spell disaster despite the almost save that came through. Wow, that one's got to feel a little bit rough to end up missing as you're getting to see that replay. It seems like it's in, but with a little nudge. Dan the Man's able to be the final scorer for that 2-2 with 2 minutes on the clock.
It hasn't even been up close. It hasn't even been personal. Like you mentioned, these are all court-wide shots coming out from both teams. It's very hard to defend against something like that. A good save early on, though, from Aspired. Relic the save into an immediate reversal. That's 3 now for Gary.
Yeah, nice little back and forth from both of these players, too. And it's really, I mean, starting to be in this one kickoff worried. A lot of the previous ones were not. They were a lot of back and forth. They ended up being those long-range shots. That one ended up being a lot of power and direction from kickoff.
Kickoffs are the most important part of each and every single round. It determines the fluidity and how the pacing of each game will go.
Ooh, I'm starting to be a little worried for Ganesha here. It seems like they're having Aspired really hang back when that is one of their more aggressive players, and maybe forcing that player to stay back and be defensive is going to end up spelling disaster. But so far, they're able to keep the pressure onto Gary's.
I'm glad you mentioned that too. With Aspire taking a little bit more of a slower roll, you can definitely tell that the domination factor for the midfield is going much more in Gary's favor. Chat, Am I Muted has a presence there, but it's not nearly as dominant as what Aspire can bring to the table. Dan the Man, though, the setups from him, noticeably absent, does allow Gary to take so much more control. The focus now for Ganesha is the defense. Doing a great job hunkering down 3, making the ball all but impossible to get in. A great aerial dodge from Aspired.
Oh, Boutro trying to get through after those demolitions as well. Going to go in for another one, and Relic's going to be the one to take control here, really trying to hold on to the ball in the air here, but that boost is going to take it right out of their hands. 40 seconds left. Clock ticking down. Ganesha's got to start feeling that weight, trying to make sure that they can get one more goal and bring this into overtime.
30 seconds of possibility. Bringing things to overtime. Again, the time will not tick down. It only takes up until one team can score a goal. It's becoming more and more of a reality. Relic is putting that pressure down. A 4th goal would solidify game number 1 for Gary's side.
Absolutely, and Iker is trying to make that happen. Unfortunately, not in the position to get those directional shots. Trying to hang this ball in the air for as long as possible and keep that timer ticking. But with 1 second left, that's going to be a rough one, and Gary really solidifies it with that final sink from Boutro.
I mean, Boutro, again, the star of the show, a solid game number 1. Having such great midfield control, winning virtually every kickoff that we saw, and especially, as you mentioned, Becky, the kickoffs leading immediately into a goal within, 15 seconds of a round starting was paramount to Gary's success.
Absolutely, and at that point, once you are able to get yourself one score ahead with only 2 minutes,
Yeah.
less than that, left on the clock, that's when you get to make that shift. That's when you get to start playing defensive and just waiting for those moments, those opportune plays that we got to see Vutro sink that final 4th goal in those last seconds. Ganesha, though, great fight, back and forth. But again, we're getting to see a completely different style of gameplay from these characters than we saw on those previous matches. And that might be where we're starting to see them falter. Can they play a defensive match?
It really is a game of dominance, and it feels like we're seeing Gary employ the same exact strategy against Ganesha that happened to Pomona too, where you have 2 teams that want to start off very aggressive, and the team that can swerve around a little bit more and find those open net opportunities, they're the ones that have that consistent pressure all the way until that timer hits 0. But that other team, this case being Ganesha, where they were able to keep up for the first 2 or so goals, they started to fall behind and they started doubling down on their defense. The issue with that, though, is that, you don't have as many goals going up against you, but you're not really getting any goals either.
Yeah. And so, we're left here. Ganesha's going to see if they can take this one home. It might be going back to trying to get a lot of those long-range shots that we saw Aspirant make 2 of in that first match. Those 2 goals that Ganesha did get were from those really long-range shots. And maybe that's what they have to rely on this time around. Or maybe going for those up-high spikes that we saw Aspirant make in the match against Pomona.
The cheerleaders are out now, providing the support needed for these players. Leaving Ganesha.
Oh, a great save to come through from chat. Am I muted? Making sure that that isn't going to end up being a quick start for Gary here. Aspire trying to run with the ball, but that dribble is strictly denied. That hurts a lot. That amount of air time to come in from chat. Am I muted? Only to miss it means that that is a great pickup for Gary.
It's another open net, though, against Ganesha. Ganesha once more, they want to play very aggressive early on. They nearly found victory in the first few seconds off that kickoff, but Gary, they were able to swerve by, accomplish the demos, and take down Ganesha for the first point. But again, 4 minutes and 15 seconds left on the clock. Plenty of time for Ganesha to get this to 1-1.
Absolutely true. Iker's able to get that ball back down. Not fighting with gravity anymore, but the demolition is going to leave that ball hanging for a moment, trying to get it back into the hands of Ganesha, but Vutro's able to snag that one up and pass it on to Relic as those demolitions start to revive back onto the field.
Chat, am I muted? Having a good handle the ball early on. Aspired, possibly an open opportunity. Great defense. Relic once more. The anchor that we mentioned we had to keep an eye on before we even came into the series. Saves the day once again. Sends the ball nearly to the other side of the court into the goal of Ganesha. Relic may be able to lead things to victory once more. Ball again. Being lackadaisical inside the midfield. Vutro looking for the aerial strike, unable to find the angle. The ball is left in no man's land.
Yeah, Aspired now with control, but unfortunately the ball is just going to fall. End up back in control of Gary. Vutro trying to capitalize off of this as much as possible, but chat, am I muted, really doing the best to fight and make sure that Ganesha stays with a chance in this game, but they're really struggling to get it over onto that orange side of the pitch.
Vutro loves to go for those aerial setups, the spikes especially, but it's been Aspired, the king of doing so in this series, has yet to find an accomplishment of that himself this series as well. Vutro looking to fish for that perfect angle. It's Relic instead to nearly sneak it through. A demo return. Aspire removes Relic. This is the opportunity to bring the ball back to Gary's court. But the ball, it refuses to leave. It's still up against Ganesha. Gary are pressuring so hard now, may be able to get that second goal.
Oh, they try to go for an up-high spike that we were seeing a lot of in those first 2 games, but it's just so much harder to when both teams are playing in the air as much as they are.
Could be up the Relic, though. The most on-the-pulse player in the server.
Flip.
Very cerebral. A great flip indeed. The angle. Take out your protractors. Students, it's another goal for Gary.
Very nicely done. That flip that we got to see in the middle of the field to quickly turn that ball 180 degrees and put that back into Gary's favor and put that pressure onto Ganesha. 2 minutes left and 2 goals that need to be made at least. we better start seeing some great back and forth and some great passes to come through, but it feels like Ganesha's really getting the short end of the stick with these demolitions that are causing both of those cars to explode and spawn back on different sides of the field.
Yeah, Aspire did get the early demo up against Gary's side. It hasn't been enough to really convert the odds just yet. A minute 30 left on the clock now. Gary's already up one game in a best of 3. If Gary can just play defense, keep the ball away from Ganesha, that means they will now be the victors of the championship.
Ooh, so far so good. Relic just trying to bring that ball back down to the goal level, but it is going to be Aspire to go ahead and push it back over towards Gary's side. A nice little push, but unfortunately that save is there from Butro, who feels like they're everywhere.
Great cerebrality, understanding the ball was about to be struck down by Ganesha. Getting rid of that opportunity themselves. Less than a minute left on the clock.
Airtime.
If Gary can just hold on and keep these 2 points in their favor,
Oh,
deny
is that
overtime! Maybe they won't! Ganesha get their first point! No, they only need one more for OT!
Motion. Oh my gosh, watch this. I mean, it's in slow motion now, but it felt like it was slow motion in that moment.
It's even
too.
slower motion.
The beautiful flip. I was about to be like, it's so sad that Aspire doesn't have anyone to back this up. And then we saw the very slow flip to come in from chat. Am I muted? And we'll see if they're going to be able to do it again. 43 seconds. They just have to get one more goal. But it also means they got to make sure that Gary doesn't get one more goal.
It's OT or nothing for Ganesha. They were the champions last year and they want to retain their title going into this. Gary, for them, 30 seconds is what's removing them away from the opportunity to be the reigning champions.
Ooh, a scary demo to come through. Chat My Muted was an instrumental part of that previous goal for Ganesha. Pressure onto this
15
blue
seconds.
side. A lot of airtime and a narrow miss. Is this going to be the opportunity for Ganesha to bring it back onto that orange side? But Iker is ready to play that defensive game.
5, 4, 3,
Oh,
2,
the airtime coming through,
1.
but the push is not going to be there. A narrow place for this to end up, and the sink was going to make it good. It would have been a 3-1, but a 2-1 is plenty, and Gary is your championships in Rocket League.
Beautiful. The Pomona Unified Champions over here. Gary reclaimed the title back from Ganesha. Beautiful work. The level of competition continues to grow between these two schools and realistically through the whole district every single year.
I mean, I like this. It means they have something to come back and play for next year.
That's right, and I'm looking forward to that as well. But right now, it's time to relish the moment. Each of these players get, well, look, Becky, they get the trophy, but most importantly, get the lollipops too.
Absolutely. And it's a great moment for our teams to show off a little bit of sportsman-like behavior and get a little bit of congratulations once again to Gary, your victors.
Yeah, Gary just played such a great and consistent job. They had a great offense, great defense, and they always had, quite literally, their eye on the ball.
Absolutely true. Great to see from these players, and a great time for us to hop off the mic so you can congratulate your 2025 champions.
Hear me, I'm calling. Catch me, I'm falling.
Absolutely, and you're going to play certain agents that make it easier for you to gather information and figure out where the opposing team might be. Agents are those specific characters that each team is going to have individual to their composition.
It's interesting. There's a lot of flashy things that happen at once. There's a lot to break down at various different times. And the cool thing about the game getting consistently updated is that more new interesting things happen all the time. We actually just had a major change to the game just a few weeks ago. A new character came in that has completely transformed the game. So if you've seen the game before, but you haven't seen it recently, you're about to see a whole new ballpark.
Absolutely. And now going into the keys of the game to talk about the defensive side of gameplay. And there will always be a switch from attacking or defending and vice versa at 13 points into the game, or after 12 rounds of the game. And you're basically going to be protecting the site, making sure that the spike doesn't get planted on one of those sites.
Yes, if you think Rocket League has a lot of team coordination, which it does, this is a whole different level with 5 different players. And another interesting thing that comes into this game compared to other games that have been like this in the past is that some of the maps are fundamentally different, where a lot of these maps will have 2 spike sites, some of them will have 3. And if you're not the biggest Valorant enjoyer in the world, you might be wondering, like, well, what's the difference? Who cares, right? You will be surprised when we get into it how much it transforms how these teams play.
Absolutely. And while there's a lot of things that make this game very complex, we're going to try and break it down as much as possible for you, keep you up to date, help you know who's in a good position. You kind of do. You need to know a lot of information when there are so many granular pieces going into it. And you'll start to see why that is when you see each individual character and each of their 4 individual abilities, as well as all the different pieces of weaponry that you have to go into the game.
The game is so complex at times that people have made entire careers watching the tippity-top professional players play the games. They're not even pros themselves, and all they do is just live stream themselves breaking down the games and explaining what is actually going on, and they make money off of that. So again, we were talking about esports careers before. You don't have to just play. As long as you can break things down, you can make quite a bit of money.
Absolutely. Our players are currently getting ready, figuring out what characters they're going to be playing, and as we mentioned, each team is going to be comprised of 5 individual characters. There can be double ups between, like, just because one team has 5 different characters doesn't mean that one of those 5 different characters can't be picked on the other side. So there can be overlap, but not on the same team. So they will be completely unique team compositions. Sometimes you see mirror compositions where both teams will pick the same team composition, but it's sometimes rare, especially when it's not like tier 1 gameplay.
Every team has different philosophies and different ways of approaching matches, and that's what makes it strategically fun, is that no 2 people are the same, and it always makes it interesting about how people want to approach things. Now, we can look at other people's monitors and see that we're just about ready to get in the game, get a sneak peek at the characters that are being played, and the first most interesting part is going to be the map. We have a Lotus, a very, very pretty map, but the thing is, though, 3 of those spike sites. So if you're on the defense, you get to stretch yourself a lot more thin than you would normally, and that's going to make your team rotate a lot more. But there's something tricky that attacking teams have discovered in the last few years of playing this map, and they're called fakes. A lot of the times, you'll see attackers poke up the far right side of the map to see where that A section is, but there's so many defenders there. They could easily take this fight early on, back away, and go to the other side of the map where there are no defenders and maybe take full control of the spike site.
Absolutely. Now, as you can tell at the top of the board there, Diamond Ranch is going to be starting off on the defensive side, while Ganesha is starting out on attack. Ganesha is going to be trying to get that spike planted and have it stay safe from defusal long enough to detonate. And we're off to a quick start. Ganesha off to getting 3 quick eliminations and some great shots coming from Uncle Steve there. Unfortunately, not able to get more than that 1-for-1 trade.
Diamond Ranch only have 1 player left. The power of Ganesha, the cheerleaders, the reigning true. It's a great trade at the end. A great first round for Ganesha.
Absolutely, as you mentioned. And unfortunately not able to get that extra money from that spike plant, but not to worry. Something that is absolutely pivotal to the game of Valorant is going to be something that is pivotal in normal life as well, and that's economy.
Oh, yeah. They have a good economy.
They certainly do. When you win a round, you are going to get more money going into the next round than the opposing team. As a result of that, Ganesha is able to buy up much better weaponry going into the second round.
The idea for Ganesha's side, though, is that they want to play very fast. They have the blue characters, the Neon and the Yoru. Their goal now is to take as much space as they humanly can. They're hungry hippos looking to gobble everything up. Andres, though, a Clove, a character designed to play a lot farther back. The thing is, though, is that they're much more aggressive than the other defenders who are now behind the enemy lines. Whoa, why are they back there? A big, gigantic fight ranged through. And Ganesha, they've already lost 2 of their players. The same can be said for Diamond Ranch, but their weaponry, the tools they have going to this round are not nearly as good as Ganesha's.
Absolutely, but something that is also pivotal to watching how this game functions is that when a character is eliminated, they drop whatever they were holding. So just because Ganesha had better money going into this round to buy better items means that if they get eliminated, those things are moving right into the hands of those that they were eliminated by. So Diamond Ranch able to get some great pickups off the ground here. And now Ganesha, 1 player remaining, Spike not in hand. This is a rough place to be if you're Ganesha.
30 seconds left in this round now. Site
Gotta run.
has been evacuated. You can't bring the spike there anymore. That's where the remaining 2 players are. 20 seconds left. A mad dash to A site. It takes 4 seconds to plant the spike down. If it's any later than that, Corny will not be able to win the round. But Top Turtle, already listening to the footsteps, know full well that this Sage, Corny, is rotating the A site. There's plenty of time to go for the spike the plant. You break open the wall, an audio cue given to this Sage. Corny knows the backup and away. It's the only chance to bring things to a 1v1.
Oh, so far, so good, but really waiting for both of those players from Diamond Ranch to be able to play together. That dark cover is going to be able to block off vision from Corny, but Corny able to make sure that those pings come through, able to see the direction where those players are trying to defuse, but very nicely done. Great teamwork coming through from Diamond Ranch, and they're going to be able to take a round that is normally very difficult for teams to be able to get.
You're absolutely right. Usually if you win this first round, you buy up a lot more with your economy than you've gained by winning that first round over a team like Diamond Ranch. Diamond Ranch did something unusual. They bought up a lot more than they should have, and they played so aggressively and refused to give Ganesha any space, to the fact that Ganesha lost the round and they themselves cannot buy up into this next round. Diamond Ranch are not investing a lot into this next. Only Cure has a Vandal, one of the best utility pieces in the game, in order to take these early fights. He's a character named ISO. He's designed to take these fights early and do nothing but have destruction. But Uncle Steve, with the help of that early smoke, something very unusual you don't see a whole lot, is good at destroying the B space. This means Ganesha cannot have a presence there anymore without taking a fight, and buys time for this defensive Omen as well, all the way over on C site to find information, and Turtle just barely gets out.
Yeah, you can tell Ganesha, after losing that last round, is playing much more slowly this time. Really making sure that they understand where their opponents are going to be, trying to suss out exactly where they are on that defensive side before going in for this plant. Using that little wingman to make sure that that plant goes through safely.
Can we get a big cheer for Wingman?
Yeah!
Wingman! Little guy doing his best. Great job. It is a big, giant skirmish, though. The post-plant destruction any which way you look. But with only 1 attacker left, it's going to be this Yoru cereal box. But all they have is a sheriff. Yet they pinpoint it precise, but the knight comes out instead. And Uncle Steve, unable to get the final one. It's Cure who had the best piece of utility in the game in order to win it out.
Very nicely done from Cure, as you said, picking up 3 eliminations in that last round with that piece of weaponry. Very nicely done, able to get a lot of those shots from very far away as well, which is one of the reasons that you would pick up that utility piece as well, making sure that you're going to be able to get those shots with the highest level of potency from as long range as possible.
Now, you can see Uncle Steve is still maintaining that shotgun. You might be wondering, why isn't he getting something better? Well, when you're as fast and, well, furious as that Neon, you can get right up into the enemy team's face before they can react and absolutely blast them away.
Turtle, the same. The
Nice
smokes
little
are now
one-way.
gone from Ganesha. That's going to make it so much harder for them to get onto a site. They have no way of blocking the vision of Diamond Ranch.
Yeah, very nicely done. A great pick to start things off, especially when you're able to come away from these fights on top as far as play count is concerned. You're just so happy to be in that moment and to be going into every situation from this point on at a 5v4.
A smoke comes out, though, from the defenders. Diamond Ranch, they're attempting to delay the time, forcing all of Ganesha to go through this very slow revolving door and put them in something we call a funnel. That's going to mean only one single way to push in, and that could be a mowdown from Diamond Ranch to solidify everybody. But the smoke goes down just in time. Uncle Steve still behind, looking to see if anyone's going to lurk on forwards. A wall comes down. Cure instead tries to go for the swing, but is unable to do so. It leads back to a flash. All the attackers are blinded out. They can't see a dang thing, but Khalil's good for 2, and that leaves only 2 attackers left. Make that 1 now.
Very
Luminaries.
nicely done from Dalty Bunny. Good little turn and burn and a beautiful
An
lineup
ace?
coming in from Luminaires there. And yeah, as you mentioned, potential for an ace here, meaning that all eliminations coming through from one player. Ultimate is ready to go, and it could be the piece that allows for Luminaires to go
10
for
seconds.
this fight. But as you mentioned, the clock is ticking. The spike is in a rough place. And with less than 4 seconds on the clock, there's no way for Ganesha to win this round. And we're just going to try and go for that elimination, but it's not going to come through. Diamond Ranch wins the round and eliminates that final player.
It's a shame, too. Ganesha had the proper tools to win that 1v1 and gain that ace. Luminaires could have had a very rare occurrence where he could have eliminated every single player of Diamond Ranch himself for the round. Ganesha, though, unfortunately now slipping rounds away. They've lost the last 3 in a round. They weaponry, not the best in the world. They're going through something we call a ping-pong economy with only 1 Vandal on the board. Everything else is just secondary weaponry.
Yeah, I mean, just like in real life, if you're starting to struggle financially, you have to take what's called a save. You have to make sure that you're buying for next, making sure that you're able to kind of pinch pennies for a little while so that later down the line you're able to buy up in a way that is effective enough to fight your opponents.
But Becky, why are the icons at the top highlighted yellow?
That means that they have their ultimate ability ready. Every single one of these characters has 4 unique abilities, and that ultimate ability is going to be one of the more powerful ones, just like Andres is using right now to come back from the dead.
Oh, that might be good, but unfortunately it's not enough for them to secure any sort of elimination and stay resurrected. Instead, though, once more, Diamond Ranch stuffing down the Academy of Ganesha. 4 rounds in a row for the defenders.
And that's 4 rounds in a row and a round where they didn't use any of their ultimates. We're talking a lot about the money economy of this game, but ultimate economy and how you're kind of saving those to make up for your lack of money on certain rounds or making sure that you convert a round into a win is just as important as well.
Look at Cereal Box. A Bucky in his hands, a little mini shotgun. That means he's going to be using his ultimate into this round where he can go completely invisible and find as much information against these defenders as he possibly can. He's going to go right up in their face and shotgun them away.
All right, Dimensional Drift coming through as well. This is Cereal Box's ultimate to allow for up close and personal viewing of where your opponents are before popping out. Unfortunately, that pop out didn't come through with a flash to make sure that the opponents could not see. And it's yet another round where Diamond Ranch is the victor and didn't use dedicated ultimates.
What a fantastic read, and I really like the idea that Cereal Box brought out a ton of information to help his teammates out, but unfortunately they were not able to win the fights. The thing is, though, there's a small ability that Cure has that allows him to get a shield over his whole body that no other character in the game can have. That means the trick with the shotgun isn't going to work, and that allowed him to get that elimination against Cereal Box. But again, another buy-up now for Ganesha. A mad dash to B-Slide potential is going to be met by old Uncle Steve.
Ultimate ability coming through from Cure here, putting both players into a completely different realm and go for a little 1v1 fight where Cure comes out on top while the rest of the players are skirmishing across the map, and we're left just to Andres, not exactly the weapon you would want to have in a 1v4 situation. But Diamond Ranch continuing to show that first round doesn't exactly mean anything.
Diamond Ranch love to take these early fights up against Ganesha. And with a team that is refusing to buy nothing but their small little rinky-dink pistols into a round. Unfortunately, they're not able to keep a consistent economy. Andre this time, a Vandal, the only one on the team to do so. Oh, never mind. A much more aggressive buy-up, and with full and light shields to boot, this may be their chance to take C-Site, but they'll have to beat up this Neon and Mr. Turtle.
I gotta say, the Ganesha cheerleaders are doing some mad moves to try and channel some energy to the Ganesha
It's working.
team. It's working so far. Maybe that's what we needed the whole time. I don't know cheerleading terminology, but that's really cool.
Yeah, we're no cheerleadologists. We're going to leave it up to the experts to figure that one out. But Khalil, outside the waterfall, is blocked out by a smoke by the Clove. A Sage won't return. Corny means that no one can push through that waterfall corner for a whole minute. Everyone in the audience is running around. It's nothing but mayhem. But Luminaire still has their ultimate. A gigantic turtle that will come through and stun a lot of players for quite a bit of time, but it's not yet coming out. Instead, the Fade uses Turtle as a Nightfall, deafening the enemy team, making sure that they can all be discovered. But Fade brought out by Ganesha, and the player, cheerleader just went into the air.
Wow. I mean, hey, the conversion is there between cheerleaders and Valorant matches so far.
There was such a big correlation. We need these for the VCT matches.
I mean, maybe we do. All right, there we see it. Ganesha finding themselves another round. It was a little bit difficult. It did come down to a 1v1 that almost went disastrously, but a win is a win, and they're able to buy up great weaponry going into this next round.
Something to consider, too, is that the positioning that we see from the Fade, the Bunny, is going to be that they can go for something called a seize early on, locking in players, but no one's the Silver Tag attempts to go for the Neon ultimate, and they get shut down instantaneously. Uncle Steve Walls backs away, gives up that space for Ganesha because they've already secured a gigantic advantage.
Ooh, all right, a nice little turn and burn here. Unfortunately, Cure is ready for this rotation, finds one. Andres pops that ult, but this is a little bit scary. Andres is coming back from the dead, but only for a limited time. If Andres isn't able to find a kill or assist, this coming back from the dead is not going to mean anything, and narrowly isn't able to secure one of those.
It's so unlucky. I like the idea. Found plenty of information about the B-side. Rotates. Khalil may be able to get in past the Sage wall, but unfortunately didn't have enough ammo, and Corny's there for the trade. Still, flash is available from Ganesha's side. They can blind the enemy team of Diamond Ranch on their post plan. Spike has gone down. This has been the weaker site for Diamond Ranch, and they have to play for a retake. It's a slide in from Uncle Steve, and Turtle there for the follow-up, mowing down Ganesha.
That's so sad because it feels like the entire round comes down to Andres nearly not being able to take down Top Turtle when they were trying to come back from the dead. And if
they just had an extra
been able
second.
to, that round could have been completely different. And that's what we're talking about. Is a lot of these rounds are going to come down to tiny little things, tiny amounts of timing, to the point where a lot of Valorant players will be like, I just got timing.
Yeah, absolutely. Sometimes the stars just do not align. Now, I do have some bad news, Ganesha. Typically, if you're the red-sided team, you should be getting the advantage on your side before it flips over. That means Ganesha will have to win the next 3 rounds in a row to have a serviceable chance to bring things to the defense. But look at this, though, and fight early on. Ganesha, they get the opening pick. Uncle Steve falls, but Cure still has the contingency plan. That's going to make everyone in Ganesha weaker for just a few seconds. A shield is open now for Cure as well. Andres is good to use the smokes to move by and grab up a better weapon to move on forwards. The Turtle is already pushing up. May have the information about these players rotating. It's possible for him to maybe take on a 1v5 by himself.
We'll see if that's going to be the case. A lot of the rest of the players are taking this rotation. Khalil has pushed forward, is trying to play that back and forth, but it's a 1-for-1 trade, which feels a lot better for the team with the weaker weaponry, which is Ganesha in this moment. Corny goes for that resurrection. This one is for good. Andres is back on the field for sure, and making it a 3v2, a great hold of that resurrection.
Yeah, at this point now, Ganesha are expecting to take a fight a few seconds into a round, and they're almost like they want it against Diamond Ranch. Diamond Ranch has not been able to win them. It's saved the economy for Ganesha, and now the spike goes down on one of the smallest sites in the entire game. Andre's choosing to push up, but again, the timing we talked about, it's finally out again. Andre's able to get away just in time and brings the smoke down. Now Dalty Bunny has to check everything to make sure they're not moving within the smokes.
Player standing.
Ooh, and Lumeris is able to take that one down. A thrifty round, meaning that Ganesha did not spend up to a certain threshold. A great win to get, and weaponry picked up from the opposing team to make this even more sweeter for these final 2 rounds. And a great time for Diamond Ranch to do exactly this.
A timeout has been called. The Ganesha cheerleaders have sent somebody high into the air, standing 4 feet tall, 4 people's worth tall, I should say.
There we go. I was like 4 feet tall.
Look, they're really large feet. But what do you do here if you're Diamond Ranch? Your entire strategy has been just pushing out early on, taking these fights and winning. But now that's not working anymore.
I mean, it's only been 1 round. I'm a fan of the mentality that is each team gets a timeout per half. Why not use it?
Well, the problem is, though, you're giving more strategies to the enemy team using it, too. They're giving themselves time to talk, and they may be able to find a counter strategy.
You've just got to hope that what you bring to the table is going to be better, and with only 2 rounds left, that they're not going to be able to figure out a rebuttal to the strategy that you're coming up with right now.
Now, with the team compositions from both sides, there isn't really any utility to stop the attackers once they get onto a site, and that's going to be a major issue for when the time comes. That's why the goal for Diamond Ranch is to win these rounds as soon as possible to prevent that chance from happening. But now that we see Ganesha rotating a whole lot more and using the map to their advantage, it hasn't been a working strategy.
Yeah, there are a lot of really great utility pieces coming out from the side of Diamond Ranch. A lot of it is pretty aggressive, but things like the Breach character that you're going to be able to see is just very versatile and great at slowing down counter aggression from Ganesha. A great 1-for-1 trade to start off, so still a good advantageous position for Diamond Ranch. But the moment this spike goes down, that's going to immediately flip into Ganesha's favor.
No ultimates on board for any of these players in the post plant. Flashes are set up twice over now. Top Turtle has 1, and the Breach also does 2. Cures and Waterfall, helping sandwich the attacking team in the post plant, but they have a power position available, and that's called the Bend. Nope. It belongs to Luminaire, though. They brought out their ult a few rounds ago, and they don't have it available anymore, but Luminaire, a great double to remove 2 of the players. It only leaves Cereal Box left, but Cereal Box is locked into a 1v1. This is Cure's ult, but they win the fight! Great thanks to a 1v1! Dalty Bunny's there for the follow-up and wins it out!
A great decision to come out from Cure there. If it's going to be a 2v1, I'm going to see if I can open up space for you to go for this defuse with as much time as possible. And if not, I'm going to be able to tell you exactly where the last player from Ganesha is. At 8-3, maybe Ganesha's going. I mean, you obviously want to win as many rounds as possible. But there is a thing called the 9-3 curse.
That's right. Sometimes you feel a little too comfortable if you gain 9 rounds in the first half and it starts slipping away from you on the attacking half itself. It evens up the game almost by magic. But look at this big fight from Diamond Ranch. They're expecting Ganesha to push A site heavily into this next round.
And we'll see if that will be the case. Fault line to come out. That ability does stun players that it hits. Going in with the flashes as well. Jumping with the shotgun, but ultimately it goes worse for Diamond Ranch than it does for Ganesha. And the player advantage is just swinging back and forth, but the health bars at the end of it all look better for Ganesha as we find those final 2 players with Silver Fangs XL getting Ganesha 4 rounds to Diamond Ranch's 8.
Beautiful comebacks from Ganesha. And although they're down by 4 rounds, it's still a fairly healthy half for the team. They adapted around what Diamond Ranch was bringing to the table early into a round and forced them to change up their complete strategy within the last 3 rounds of the first half.
Absolutely true. This time around, as we're taking a peek at Diamond Ranch's team composition, they certainly can pack a punch if they're able to coordinate the 2 stun abilities that are available on their team, as well as the singular flash, which normally you would like a little bit more flash capability for a team. But all things considered, if you're able to make sure that a lot of those other angles are smoked off by the Omen, you're going to be in a lot better position going on to this attacking side.
Each team is extremely punchy, and they want to play as fast and aggressive as possible. Uncle Steve, a tempo setter earlier on, removes Corny. Andre, by themselves, swings into a 1v4. Is it going to be enough, though? Khalil does fall, and it's a very good start. But again, Uncle Steve does not care. Wants to push everything and find as many fights as possible.
Oh, good back and forth trades. Top Turtle able to get those headshots and be able to find a few of these as well. But the quick convention of these two players. Health bar looking much better for Cure. And ultimately, when it comes down to the Classic, if you've got not a lot of HP, it's going to go better for you. So Cure secures that first one.
Uncle Steve was good to create so much space as that Neon. They just have to go for a direct hit round after round. It's going to be up to Ganesha to try to be just as aggressive on their defenses. Diamond Ranch was themselves. But they're giving a lot of space up to Diamond Ranch. They understand that they lost this first round of the second half, and they cannot go for a large investment. Only a share for Cereal Box. And he's playing for early contact outside of C. That will never come. It's A side all the way.
Yeah, good patience there from Uncle Steve before dashing in, making sure that that fault line comes all the way through. A great counter with that flash to come out from the Gecko player.
Oh, that's nasty.
But unfortunately, the hops are just too strong from Uncle Steve. And that pop is going to come through. Top Turtle as well, getting these headshots left and right alongside the rest of the team. But this is a round that Diamond Ranch should be in a great position to take home.
Oh, the movement from Uncle Steve has been absolutely nasty. It's going to be hard to adapt around that. You don't have any stalling utility to remove a player like Uncle Steve from gaining that distance. Realistically, each team is designed to take fights and not really use a lot of utility to do it. It's all forward aggression.
I was going to say, there's a lot to be said about when you're playing on the defensive side. If you're deciding that you're a pick fights early and you're trying to play for those 1v1s, or if you're trying to play for a retake strategy, where you're letting the spike go down and then you're trying to come in after the fact, when you're kind of playing that counterattack strategy. And so far, it seems like Ganesha has thought that they should be playing a lot more up, think that they should be playing those early 1v1 back and forths. But now it seems this is the round that they fully decided to play very far back and play to kind of take in that counterattack strategy.
This could be a blessing in disguise for Ganesha. This is the smallest site in the game, and it's great when you only have just classics and sheriffs to work with. It's not as good weaponry, but it could work out well. Unfortunately, the numbers are going away. Khalil maybe good for one more of the 360 into a right click, does not connect. A 1v2, 21 HP. It's certainly winnable now for Cereal Box. 2 in the chamber. What can you do? Not enough utility to bring out the ult just yet. 2 flashes available, but very little information about where the last 2 were at. Uncle Steve pushes up. 27 left and goes down! It's a 1v1, but there's no time to defuse. 11th round for Diamond Ranch, and they only need 2 more to win map number 1.
Ooh, what a round, but a lot of damage done to that economy, even though they didn't win that round. So they are making sure that the buy-up for Diamond Ranch, at least in this one, is a little bit disparate. That much being said, the economy and pockets still looking very good for that attacking side. Defensive side of Ganesha really have to start picking it up and really make sure that they're making tricky plays, kind of using their utility to the best of their ability, because their weaponry is just not on the same level.
It's the same strategy again. Early smoke comes down on A site. There were no hidden tricks up the sleeves of Diamond Ranch. They push in aggressively. Uncle Steve gobbles and gobbles it all up. A wall comes down. Oh. A good hidden play from Andre, though.
There we
Turtle
go.
falls.
That's what we need to see. We need to see a few more things like that. Unfortunately, that is going to force Andres out of that corner. And Khalil says, I'll be taking that space right about now, as the rest of the attacking side is just trying to get onto this site. But unfortunately, Ganesha, not letting this plant go through, decide to go for that fight. And it will be their downfall, as Diamond Ranch put themselves on match point, and they are 1 round away from victory.
Who let uncook? Unbelievable. Uncle Steve has been doing such a great job. 18 and 11. He has been an unstoppable force on this attack.
Yeah, and this is a scary place to be. We see that Neon ultimate from Uncle Steve is ready. And you may not be fans of Valorant, but I think a lot of people know Star Wars. And
I've heard of it.
Neon is basically just Palpatine.
Oh.
You just start to shoot lightning from your fingers, and it can mow through your opponents pretty quickly.
We saw that on Ganesha's attack, but unfortunately they were removed as soon as it came out. Uncle Steve already fighting for mountain control, looking to see if anyone's going to take an aim duel against him from the tippity top of sight. It could be Cereal Box, but instead, no. Silver Fang's removed off screen. That's B-side control. It was all a big fake, and it looks like Ganesha now are reorienting themselves for a retake. But remember what Becky said, Palpatine figures could come out.
Absolutely true. Uncle Steve gets 2 and then says, let's see if we can find these final 2. Electricity is in the building here and now, and it's going to be a flawless final round to lock things up for Diamond Ranch to go into the next one 1-0.
I mean, Diamond Ranch, they played with aggression, essentially aggression only. They took fights and let Uncle Steve do his thing. He was a demon in the server.
Absolutely true, but great kind of counterplay that we were getting to see from the opposing side as well. Ganesha doing a great job. Excited to see how they're going to be in match number 2. But in the meantime, let's take a look at what the cheerleaders have for us in this halftime. and I'm very excited for match number 2. And I will give some good news to those of you who are rooting for Ganesha. That last match was a map that was Diamond Ranch's pick.
That's true.
So, there is a lot to be said that you would pick a map that you're very familiar with, that you have strategies for, and now we're going on to a map that is going to be Ganesha's pick. So, likely that same thing is true, and I think that we're in for a real treat going into this next one that is bound to be close.
That's right, and the good thing, though, is that the first map from Diamond Ranch was the largest map in the game. It had 3 different sites. There's a lot of different options for the attackers to find momentum in and really do something new every round.
Absolutely true. So
That can't be said for the next map. For Ganesha's map pick, it is the exact opposite. There's definitely a lot of strategies you can bring out, but where you have 3 different sites and a lot of different lanes to push into and kind of worm your way through like a little gopher, you really can't do that on Bind. You have to, you push one thing and then you rotate, and then you push a different site and you rotate off of that.
and your rotates are very loud.
Yeah, I mean, you just go around a lot.
Absolutely. So we're in for probably a lot more team fight potential going into this next
And
one.
that's saying something.
Absolutely, because there was a lot on the last match as well. But yeah, this is going to be a lot more condensed. There's a lot less room to work with on the map of Bind, and so I think it's going to be a pretty explosive match.
That's right. It does look like we may have locked into the wrong map. I'm sure we'll be resetting things after this. But that's
all
okay.
right. You can listen to us yap for a bit.
Yeah, I mean, look, I could talk about Valorant all day long. It's a fun game. Bind is not my favorite map.
I was going to
in the
say, you
pool.
sound like you don't like this map. So what
I
don't
love
you like
Lotus.
about it? You
Lotus
love
is one of my
Lotus.
favorite maps.
Yes.
The problem with Bind is that traditionally you have like you have the 2 sites, right? And then you have like this middle lane section where
Okay.
you can break things up and diversify how you want to push. You're not just subjected to funnel into one direct site. Bind does not have that middle section, and it might not sound like the biggest deal in the world, but when you're trying to think of more in-depth strategies and change things around and not do the same thing over and over again, it does make things pretty easy for a defensive team.
Absolutely true. But while we're sitting here, we're going to take a little peek at some people that we have to thank that we haven't had a chance to yet while we wait for this map pick to be a little resolved with our players. So a big thank you to the Pomona Unified Board of Education and the district admins that are a part of that, namely the Superintendent Darren Knowles, Deputy Assistant Superintendent Lilia Fuentes, Director of Tech in Cynthia Sanchez, and Chief Technology Officer Gino Petrovelli.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you again for the school principals as well. We have Ganesha's principal, Joseph Bigioni. We have Diamond Ranches of Mark Gomez. And, of course, our Steam leads as well. We've activated the cheerleaders.
We did activate them. It feels like we've been doing that a lot, but I love it. Yeah, your Steam
They
leads.
just lowered the volume. The Steam leads, of course, as well. We have Ganesha's George Ramirez and Diamond Ranch's Kevin Sismar as well. Thank you so much for making this all a reality.
Absolutely, and as Alan mentioned, we do have some amazing prizes that are coming through for the players as well. Not only that trophy and the ring from Herf Jones that are very typical amongst sports and that world, so we're bringing that same level of prizing that we see in those, as well as a bunch of things from Steel Series and gaming accessories, as well as a computer monitor from STE Education and Oakley sunglasses
Ooh.
from Generation Esports.
Come on,
So
Oakleys.
a whole bunch of things these players are playing for, and a whole bunch of things that we see Diamond Ranch close to clutching.
Oh, this is spicy. Okay.
All right, what do you think of this team composition? Break it down.
So there are some very interesting characters on both sides, right? You'll have to bear with me for a second, audience. So on Diamond Ranch, you have this masked character called Vice, and then on Ganesha's side, you have this blonde, kind of edgelord-looking character called Deadlock. They're both very unconventional at times, and they require a lot of team coordination. They don't find a lot of information, which a lot of teams rely on in coordinated play, but instead they're designed to slow down attackers. So these 2 team compositions are designed for the defense. Ganesha, they'll want at least 4 rounds for this first half like they did back on Lotus, but for the majority of what they want to accomplish on their map pick, they really want to be on the defensive side.
Yeah, I think it's interesting that you're pointing out some of these interesting Sentinel picks, which are typically those very defensive playing characters, and Vice in particular that is really great at capitalizing off of this drop onto the B site that you can see in the top left-hand corner. So many players are hanging around this area to where the attackers thought that they were going to have success, went ahead and tried to go into that, but unfortunately in this final moment, Corny will fall, and Diamond Ranch is off to a strong start with this pistol round to take over.
It's incredibly tough to take space on a map like Bind. You have two different ways of approaching each spike site, and both of them are very linear defender-heavy corners that will be perfect for someone like we saw back on map number 1, like Uncle Steve, take full advantage of. Uncle Steve this time is not going to be the fast-paced Neon anymore. Silverfang will retain that character. Instead, they've swapped over to Yoru, who we did get to see back on Lotus find a lot of information.
Yeah, and I'm interested to see the Yoru on this map. You do get to play a lot with, as you can see, there's some big blue lines, and those are going to be teleporters. The piece of weaponry that Uncle Steve was able to bring around this time around, not the shotgun like we previously saw a lot of love for, but this time a little bit of a sniper action that's been able to find 2 players from Ganesha and give a big advantage to Diamond Ranch going into this next round.
Uncle Steve was not able to take his teleporter past the deadlock wall that she had brought down. It has around 700 HP. The typical player in this game, 150. So goes to show that it takes a lot to take it out. Uncle Steve wanted to push up to try to take another sniper shot, but unfortunately the time has passed. Call's been made now by Ganesha. They're down 2 players, and they've lost their entry potential with the Neon. They're forced to group up together and play very slowly to rotate from A site to B. Already though, Uncle Steve, he's been the one to eliminate the first 2 players of Ganesha so far this round, rotating the same. The smokes will be the only thing that disrupts his positioning, but he gets 2. One more, and he gets an ace to remove every player off of this team.
The lineup that just came through, a 2-for-1 there, and Uncle Steve out for blood and finds the ace. All eliminations going into that player's hands.
Nah, we gotta have the cheerleaders really cheer for that one. That's so rare.
That is a big deal. That's MVP worthy right there.
Absolutely. Huge round for Diamond Ranch.
And going to go ahead and keep holding on to that same piece of weaponry going into this next round.
Yeah, the Outlaw. It's not going to be as good in this round, though, because look at the shields being brought up by Ganesha. They're full and not the hollow shape that Luminaries has. That means it's going to take more than one shot to take down any of these players. But Uncle Steve feels confident, takes the 2 shots, removes Serial Box, but has to back away. It takes so long to reload that Outlaw.
Oh, and while a lot of that attention is over towards Uncle Steve, you see Tanola slowly pushing forward, trying to see if anyone goes for that rotation over towards the other side of that A site. Instead, it looks like we're going to see Ganesha going for a full push in the complete opposite direction. So it's going to be a lot of back and forth between these players going in here.
About the stall, though. That masked character, Julio's rocking them. Their name is Vice. So much information has been found off of that utility. The hard, a triple elimination against Ganesha. Silverfangs attempts to take one down, but unfortunately unable to do so. Diamond Ranch, a 3rd round in their possession.
Wow, what a round. I mean, there's also a saying in the Valorant world, and it's check your corners.
That's true.
I mean, that's so difficult, though, when you've just made one big rotation. You kind of start to feel like that clock is ticking. You don't have time to spend having one person go and look into all of those little areas. But we also didn't need all 3 players in that exact location when only one of them needs to plant. And that's hopefully something Ganesha can learn from going forward.
But remember, for Ganesha, this is not their side to get rounds on. Both of these teams want defensive rounds as much as they possibly can. The attacking side will be a struggle for both. But Ganesha, their goal right now should be at least 3 rounds. 4 and 5 would be healthy. But when they swap to the defense, they have just as much stall potential as these defenders, who are actually not stalling at all. They are pushing out very aggressively.
I was just about to say, this tells you a lot about how confident Diamond Ranch is feeling. The way that they are moving, the way that they are collapsing like wolves that are hunting in this moment. We're going to have to see Ganesha coming in hot onto this A site if they're going to have a chance for the collapse that is occurring.
I like this take right now from Ganesha. They've taken A side properly. This is exactly what you need to do with the retake potential. All you have to do is swerve around the corner, and whether they know it or not, Ganesha, they're being sandwiched out. They're stuck inside shower, and it was a shorty, a tiny little shotgun to remove at least one, and Turtle's there for the retake. A quick defuse goes to Diamond Ranch. But Ganesha, I love the way they took that site. They walled everything off properly. But again, there just was not the information that all the defenders from B-site went across the entire world to flank the attackers.
Yeah, and how are you to know? In so many rounds, that's so untypical. You would not expect the defensive side to push up and kind of come in flanking that early into a round. And so they pushed in at a great time. They came in with good pressure, but were not ready for themselves to be met with that level of opposition.
Timeout's been called for Ganesha. I really like how they're playing off of each other so far. I think their chemistry is sound, and I think they're playing very well. It's just a matter of winning these fights. Even in the international stage, happening right now in Thailand, teams are struggling with playing off of each other, and that's a big strength that Ganesha has even over the top-tier teams.
Absolutely true, and it's something that's going to be prevalent at every level of gameplay, even in those solo games that you're playing at home with none of your friends.
That's just a nightmare.
It's kind of a nightmare, but it really usually in those situations does come down to what group of solo players is going to play the best off of each other and communicate the best.
It's true. It can be a struggle for anybody. And now remember, with a timeout, both teams do get to talk to each other and figure out what they can do to re-strategize. Now, if you're not the team that goes for a timeout, what do you do?
I mean, try to anticipate what the opposing team is going to be talking about. If they're calling this, I mean, obviously you're going to assume that Ganesha is calling it because they're like, okay, what do we need to change? So then Diamond Ranch is going, okay, where could we possibly have a hole in our strategy? Do we then start to play as aggressive as we were playing, or start to dial it back? But instead, it's the same level of aggression that we were seeing before. A beautiful combo of that smoke into the haunt, able to make those outlines of the opposing characters that allow you to line up that shot when you wouldn't otherwise be able to see. And that's so difficult to fight against. And unfortunately, it does do Ganesha in so quickly.
And you called it perfectly, Becky. There was a big change in Diamond Ranch's strategy off of Ganesha's timeout. What did they do? They knew for a fact that Ganesha had to make a big change and they would push B. An educated guess, but they smoked out early on, they blocked the vision away from the attackers, and they pushed both lanes and took those fights that they knew that they would likely have the advantage in, and absolutely won it out. Uncle Steve, 13 and 1 right now.
That's a great
incredible
scoreline.
KDA.
Absolutely. And now we're getting to see something else that's very common in the Valorant sphere as well. Diamond Ranch has kind of done this thing called conditioning. They'd have had that Vise on that B site every single time with everything and all those pieces of utility that are really difficult to move through set up on the different sites. But they're going to assume for Ganesha that Vise is still over there when that is not the case. And that allows for this collapse to come in that much stronger. The wall comes up so that we're able to get this resurrection onto Cereal Box. Khalil pulls up with that shorty, but unfortunately not able to get a few of these shots in, trying to make sure that they aren't pushing out too much. But the back and forths still don't end up going in Ganesha's favor, and the aggression put on constantly by Diamond Ranch is proving to be a lot of weight.
Really liked Corny's decision making there. Had a player eliminated inside of showers, brought up their wall, the Resurrection ultimate to bring Cereal Box back to life to take that fight additionally. Unfortunately, it did not work out. The idea would have been that Cereal Box gets the trade and removes one defensive player and would have the ability to resurrect themselves and give a much more lingering fight. That's okay though. Ultimate now available into this next round. A much more aggressive play should be led by Cereal Box, and it is. This is a great way to gain additional information. Already identified outside of B long. Uncle Steve does take down Cereal Box, and there's that not dead yet. The ultimate that resurrects that player.
Oh, and it looks like the pressure is going to be on. A lot of Diamond Ranch kind of holding back and trying to make sure that that glow is not going to be able to come back for sure. And that is going to be the case. And with that not dead yet, not going the way that Ganesha would like, that does make it a flawless round for Diamond Ranch to go up to 7-0.
Uncle Steve has been finding so much value in these early rounds taking fights. You can have all the strategy in the world, but if you have a player that can out-aim, it's very tough to get past that.
Yeah, I mean, it then does come down to how the opposing team is using a lot of their utility. And unfortunately for Ganesha, the way that you typically fight against somebody who's really out-aiming you is playing around flashes and playing around smokes. And Clove has some of the shortest smokes in the game, and there's only one flash readily available for Gecko, and sure, it does come up a lot faster than a lot of the other flashes in the game, but it's really hard to kind of go for a 1-2 punch in that situation. A wall comes up to try and make that more difficult, and Corny is able to find those final few pieces of damage onto Uncle Steve. Ganesha is down a player, but this is one of the better rounds that they've had so far, especially when Cerebox is able to equalize.
Ganesha are expecting a rotate to come out now from these attackers, and they would guess wrong. I'm sorry, Diamond Ranch, excuse me. That's why we see that Vice waiting so far away. Each player isolated out, but there's no information against either of them. The timing now being brought out for Khalil to get this strike from the back. It's Dalty Bunny to take down Corny.
That's such a good angle to
One
hold.
more, still
Oh,
unknown.
no.
Maybe the plant? No, 49 seconds, plenty of time, but no, dodge the Gecko wall. That's unbelievable. Serial Bucks by Bill achieved this, but Dalty Bunny's there for the final strike. 8 rounds in a row for Diamond Ranch.
Cerebox actually played that really well. I mean, the jumps at the start were a little bit scary, but the lock-in that happened after kind of finding a few stray shots and trying to see and figure out how to isolate those final 2 remaining players to the best of their ability was really admirable. It's just so hard to fight in those 2v1 situations.
It really is, and it could be a big struggle. Diamond Ranch, though, I think their communication was unbelievable in the final parts of that round. You had seen Khalil play so far away, wait off the contact of Dalty Bunny to give that info, being like, hey, they're pushing B site, come on, come here. And then you would see the Vice to start flanking. And guess what? Now the Vice is pushing out of showers, finds plenty of information that nobody's going to be A site. That's going to tell Diamond Ranch, hey, they're all B. And if they go through that teleporter that Tanola's aiming at, the Vice was in the proper position to take advantage. It looks like that won't be the case, though. Mosh pits out. Yeah, great dodge. Hookah control back into the favor of Turtle. And it's going to make all of Ganesha stuck in B long. Khalil finding so much extra space off of this flank.
Oh, one player committing to this teleport.
Oh!
2, excuse me. They were so close together. 1, I didn't realize they were 2 players, and 2, they're going to go down to the same shot.
Right here.
Ganesha, though, they didn't send all their players through that teleporter.
Oh.
Serial Box left behind, but where are the last 2? They did go through the teleporter. Uncle Steve repositions.
Oh, we can see that barrel. But
Corny.
Corny, very beautiful little hip shots coming through there.
2v2. Both have ultimates. A resurrect available for Corny. They just have to get past this teleporter door. The wall should be available for Ganesha. It's brought out. The shots from Uncle Steve missed. They know exactly where this Yoru is at, and Andres is back to life.
A great resurrection. 20 seconds left on the clock, but favor of Ganesha here. They do have to still get that spike planted, and they're having to move through these thorns that Vice has laid down.
13
Unfortunately,
seconds.
that wall is not going to be enough. It takes 4 seconds to plant that spike, and there's less than 10 seconds left on the clock, and the wall went up from the Vice. They're completely locked out from getting this round. When they finally had a chance, it still goes Diamond Ranch's way.
The good thing, though, is that Ganesha were able to remove all the players of Diamond Ranch. Diamond Ranch's money is fine, but Ganesha were able to keep 2 of their big pieces of weaponry into this next round. Uncle Steve's upgrading away from the Outlaw into an Operator.
That can hurt.
That's the most expensive weapon in the game, and that can one-shot any player, but it takes such a long time to readjust your aim if you miss that one fire.
But Uncle Steve has not missed a lot of shots so far.
That's true. That's unbelievably true. But now you have that Neon Ultimate, the fast charge your way into A, but you mentioned that conditioning from so long ago. The Vice utility's back on A site. Khalil's given the call that nobody's outside of showers. If they can make that distance and find that all of Ganesha are waiting just outside of A and they're now making noise, Khalil absolutely hears that. They could go for the flank.
This is a spooky little situation for all players involved. Corny's still watching this corner, but unfortunately, the gunfight back and forth does not go Corny's way. Khalil gonna make that quick Change says, I got my one pick and I am out. I'm able to make that communication that still no one from the attacking side is around A, so B site better be ready, and ready they are.
3 players left for Ganesha now, stuck inside this hookah position. Uncle Steve goes in, not a fear in the world. Unfortunately misses the shot on the operator. 4 HP, and the ultimate is procced out.
Spike down.
And narrowly.
Oh, okay. No longer a flawless round. Turtle trying to find the blind shots, unable to do so. Andre has nowhere to go. The grab net nade is out. That's going to force each of these players hit by it to crawl.
Honestly, that was a great fight from Andres.
Yes.
Like, very good, very close, correct instincts. It's, again, just, we keep finding Ganesha in these 1v2, 1v3 situations, and those are times where I'm like, okay, your instincts are all right for these situations. It just is so difficult, again, to fight when you're down that many players. And so I'd just love to see some of these instinctual plays really come off of the plays that our teammates are making.
I think the beginning would have to be to catch Khalil out on these flanks.
Yeah.
He's been able to gain so much information without even using utility. Walks out of showers and gives the call, hey, they're not A.
Guess what?
Bring
There's
everybody
only
to
one
B
other
side.
site. Yeah.
I have them now.
Oh, a fantastic ultimate. That's Deadlock's Annihilation. It brings you into a cocoon, and you have to have your teammates destroy the cocoon to survive.
But I love that Khalil's just not shooting.
Yeah, it does not want to
I
reveal
love
their
this
position.
because now we get this exact moment. How long can we go?
Oh!
But okay, let's go, Corny.
Khalil got
Corny's
greedy.
like, yeah, you said it. Getting a little too greedy, seeing how much will funnel into you. And hey, somebody's going to look in that corner. They didn't earlier in the game, but we're learning. We're making and fixing our mistakes. Unfortunately, though, we said Uncle Steve isn't missing.
Uncle Steve never rotated from A side, maintained the stay here, expecting Ganesha to go through the teleporter, and he is correct. Blinded out completely. The players attempt to run a 4K for Uncle Steve. One more to today's. But look at this position from a cereal box, flanking the entirety of the defense. 30 seconds left, and they cannot be quiet at all. Plenty of utility and smokes to work off of, but Uncle Steve is fully well aware. Attempts to make the shots happen, just needs to
the
go
Guardian
one solid
is so
one.
rough.
One bullet.
Oh, okay.
They want the headshot.
You know? Oh, instinct is correct here.
Oh.
Is going to lose for swapping to that one bullet, though. And all of a sudden is now in a different position of having to try and go aggressive. But because of this little back and forth, Cereal Box, those 4 seconds that you need to plant have been eaten up. And Diamond Ranch finds themselves 11-0, this close to writing their name on that trophy.
That's right, 2 more rounds. The crown Diamond Ranch, the champions. Ganesha. They still have the defense to work off of, but it will be a very slim margin.
There we go. Panthers, Diamond Ranch cheering aloud. Send these seniors off their final years in high school, sign their names on the trophies, and then say see ya.
Huh. A trophy to end off senior year. I couldn't think of a better way to do it. 2 ultimates available now for Ganesha. Smoke is out now. These defensive players looking very well be their final push of the defense. Khalil, Tanola, Khalil again. Good for 3. Make that a 4th. 1 left at Cereal Box. Waited so far in the back with just a Guardian. It's not an automatic.
Yeah, difficult place to be. Those ultimates going to be ready to fight back against match point, but Cereal Box would need to pull a real hat trick to come back in this situation. Instead, we're just seeing Uncle Steve go for some of these jump picks. Tries to fake a clone. And is going to pull out an ultimate from Diamond Range. So, all things considered, not a bad round.
It is the last round and a half, though. We won't be able to keep it back over.
Yeah.
12 rounds out for Diamond Ranch. They just have to win this attacker pistol, and they'll consider themselves the champions.
Match point.
All right, Ganesha is moving on to a side of the map that I do think is much more advantageous.
Absolutely. Both these teams are very defender-sided. Diamond Ranch can easily struggle here.
Yeah, we can see a very similar setup from the Deadlock that we did see from the Vice, where you're putting in a lot of those kind of more difficult to deal with pieces of utility towards that drop side of B. or you can use them to really like make a choke point on that A site. So I am interested in seeing if Andres is going to really start to show up on this defensive side the way that we saw Khalil do for Diamond Ranch.
Keep in mind, too, that Ganesha are rocking the double sentinel. That Sage and the Deadlock pick are great for the stall factor. Could be good to slow down Diamond Ranch and stuff them into a corner to take these fights. Uncle Steve already procs out the Sonic Sensor, meant to slow down Uncle Steve. He's got the shorty, removes Andrea right away. 4 left alive now for Ganesha, and potentially what's left of the championship.
Out of charges.
Oh, and they're just saying, you know what? We had one player go for the plant, the rest of us are going for blood. And with that, Diamond Ranch a 13-0, signing their name on that trophy for 2025.
Great work from Diamond Ranch. Uncle Steve showing absolute heroics. A stellar beginning to that first half. Has just been able to carry that snowball and keep it going.
Absolutely. Congratulations to the Diamond Ranch Panthers, your victors for Pomona Unified School District Esports Championship in 2025. One more time, while we're still on mic, I want to say thank you to the Pomona Unified Board of Education, the district admin, school principals, STEAM leads, Lollipop Labs, Herb Jones, the Knowledge Society, Orange Coast College, and Steel Series. We really do thank you all for being here and witnessing these great matches of Valorant.
Absolutely. And again, once again, thank you so much for all the amazing people who have helped make this a possibility, all the trophy makers, everyone who has been here for the beginning, all the parents supporting the students, of course, all the school staff and administration that are here to support the students as well. This is the future, and you guys are at the ground level.
Absolutely. Thank you all so much from myself and Keg. It's been an absolute pleasure to be here and root on these amazing students who are, as Keg said, a part of the future.
Yes.
And we're so happy to see it, and we look forward to seeing you all next time.